you know that I'm very, very keen on, and I think it's important that I would like to bring that into our discussion today, and that is I'm very big on conversations and dialogue, and especially when it's dialogue on issues that could be divisive, where people don't necessarily have the same thoughts of how to move forward, how to do that, and the whole concept of dialogue. And one of the things that I've noticed, that if you can create an environment within the organization, within the group, and you can create a place in which conversations that could be held in an open process, where you have difference of opinions, but you respect the concept of dialogue and discourse. And you know, as you well know, I'm president of a board of individuals that help manage the West Virginia Center for Civic Life, and we're a nonpartisan group, and within the framework of that group, we tried to our very best to create venues, opportunities for dialogue. And I think that one of the key things that leaders can do is to create an environment in which you can have conversations. And I'm not talking about conversations necessarily that you have at the coffee dispenser in the staff office, or the room where you have lunch, or wherever. Those are important. I'm not saying that, but creating opportunities for interaction within the group as you move forward in a united way. And I know that it's very, very important for us to create those kinds of venues for dialogue. And in your experience in higher ed, how did you see that play out in the various universities that you've worked in?
Well, looking at higher ed and also other types of organizations, a couple of things come to mind. First of all, there are a couple different types of dialogue that I think of. One, and this is something that can happen in any organization, and that's something, you know, most people desire human interaction, they desire relationships, but leadership is very messy, and there are many leaders that utilize the work environment to be their primary place of human interaction, of relationships, and it's also the place where they do their venting with the members of the organization. And that can be incredibly harmful. And there's something that really is important for leaders to think about, and that is boundaries. So yes, you want to have meaningful relationships. You want to have dialogue. And the type of dialogue that you're talking about is a little bit different, which I'll comment on. But you need to be very cognizant of how your actions, the things that you talk about, can impact the other members of the group. It can increase cynicism. There can be an increase of paranoia, you know, when that platform of the organization is used as the place for venting. So leaders need to be very careful of what they say, how they say it, to whom they say things. And there's a great book called Boundaries for Leaders that addresses this. In terms of the dialogue that I think you're talking about, this facilitated intentional dialogue, I think it's critical to an effective organization. People want to have a sense of ownership for the destiny of that organization. You know, I think about the work of Ed Deasy, and he does something called self-determination theory. He's kind of he's the father of that approach. And there are three things that he believes are integral to success as a leader. And one of those is autonomy. People want to have a sense that they have control. They have a sense of ownership for what's happening around them. Another piece is competency. People want to feel like they're good at something. People want to feel like they are making a difference. But the third part is connectedness, and that's that part that is all about human interaction. It's all about relationships, being a part of something that's bigger than you. And I think that as a leader, Doug, in working with you within the higher ed environment, which you mentioned, I think that you did a really good job about that. First of all, you did not utilize that environment as a place for venting. There were times when I didn't necessarily know what you thought about particular issues that might have been happening in terms of campus politics, that type of thing.
Sure.
You didn't use
Sure.
that as a platform to discuss those. But you did talk a lot about what does our preferred future look like? What do we want this division to look like, you know, if everything went our way? What is sort of our dream list of changes that we'd like to see happen? And you created an environment where people could discuss those within the large group, but then even in smaller settings, even one-on-one meetings, you would address those types of things. So I think that it was very, very important in our work in higher ed.
I mean, you know, and of course, you know, I've carried that over in relationship to virtually everything that I've done, no matter what kind of organization it may have been. And in our consulting work that you know that we've done off and on together, we know that in working you've got to understand that. One of the things that you touched upon indirectly is the fact if you provide a venue for dialogue and people have an opportunity to have input into their preferred future and how that goes, that creates a very much of an appreciative kind of environment. And one of the things in doing some research in the last week or so, I've looked at what happens in organizations, especially in the workplace, and no matter whether it's a private or for-profit or a governmental unit. If there's an element of underappreciation on the part of the staff, it has staggering impact on productivity and the direction and the functionality of that particular organization. I just read recently, if you are underappreciated, there is a direct correlation with the whole concept of engagement. There's a level of disengagement on the part of the team. In various levels. And I found this staggering. I don't know how to go about doing this and quantifying it, but it is estimated annually in this country where people are disengaged and feel underappreciated, that it costs our economy anywhere from $250 to $300 billion a year. Now, can you imagine if we use the opportunities of change that are beginning to take place in this country at the national level, and you know as well as I do, it will fall down. I don't want to use the word trickle down because
Right.
that has a connotation of yesteryear, but it does flow through the whole country. And especially if we find ourselves in a positive atmosphere, using this as an opportunity to say, okay, there's going to be dramatic change. The whole country as an organization, as a community, has made that decision. Let's figure out how to do that. And so if we can find ourselves re-engaged, not only at the personal level, but at the community and organizational level, I think that there's great opportunity for us.